So we're back with another Street Hockey Life podcast, which is very exciting to me. And today, our journey actually takes us to outside of Utah, which I think is just unbelievable when it comes to growing the game of ball hockey and hockey in general, which is awesome. So my guest today is Tommy Rupp. Tommy is a fascinating guy. You can see him on the Red Rock Hockey Facebook page. He does a lot of tutorial videos. He does a phenomenal job. He's incredibly passionate about the game, and I'm very happy to have him. So Tommy, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So let's start off with what's going on out there in Utah? What are you guys up to out there?
Well, certainly a lot. So this is it's been our first year now. We just rounded out our first 12 months of this Red Rock hockey program. Got started in spring of 2023, and we play in a little makeshift rink that actually doubles as what's called a futsal court out here. So it's like
Yeah.
a mini game of soccer, but we had an ice rink about 45 miles north of us that shut down, and they were able to donate their boards to us. And so we're like, hey, let's create a rink here and get some leagues going and everything like that. And I happened to jump on when we started all of the leagues in the organization with it. And but believe it or not, this all started in a parking lot with a couple of guys down here. So
Unbelievable.
they needed a place to play hockey. They would go to either church parking lots or major convention center parking lots at night where there were some street lights, and get about four or five, maybe six guys together, and they'd play. And that probably went on, I would say, for the first 4 years of everything. And getting back to the spring of 23, they decided, hey, we've got the rink now. Let's see where we can take this. And that's when I happened to join on. And not only as a player, my kid was playing as well, which was really cool. So that was the first experience I got to share with my son in hockey, which is obviously something I'm pretty passionate about. And a year later, we've gone from four youth teams, or technically eight between the two divisions, and we are now up to 24 total teams for the youth. And we have now branched out this season to Henderson, Nevada as well. So everything under the Red Rock umbrella. We have some guys we play some ball hockey with down there that they're willing to take on an olive branch of it. And we're just taking the momentum as far as we can right now, and trying to put the final touches hopefully on a new rink here, same location, but the city's been gracious enough to work with us here, and they've seen the work that we're doing and how much we're growing, and it's a really special time to be involved with it. So it's pretty cool.
That's impressive. 24 teams. So if I correct me if I'm wrong, you guys started in 2023.
As far as organized league play goes, yes, we have
That's
only
amazing.
been here for a year. We started out with about 75 kids that signed up, and then we have our adult league as well.
Okay.
We took that to about 160 to 170 kids this year. And with that growth, that's actually what got us kind of in the doors with the city. And they're like, okay, you guys are almost maxed out at where you're at. And what's unique about our program is there's a lot of interest in hockey right now. We're only 2 hours north of the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Salt Lake is 4 hours north, and obviously, yeah, everyone's seen the news there where it looks like that's either where the NHL is going to expand, or it sounds like we might be a potential owner of the Arizona Coyotes if they do choose to move. So we have a whole highway of hockey interest, and I think the best thing about the ball hockey approach to it is everybody connects with hockey, and ball hockey or street hockey in its simplest form is just, hey, do you have a stick and do you have a ball? Let's go play. We've got it, right? Everyone can understand that and relate to it so easily. And I think it's when you introduce like the skating that the people you start to lose like the numbers in recruitment or retainment or even reintroduction to the sport, and kind of seeing this down here in its little hybrid style. It's like, hey, this is perfect. Like, this is absolutely perfect. We obviously have a lot of people that are intrigued because of the hockey influence in our local area, but also low investment, which is really important to individuals these days, obviously. And it's something that there's nothing else out here. We're really the only thing you can play hockey wise in St. George. And until this continues to keep, I guess, running the train. It's I mean, I can only see an upward, influence from here, which is pretty special.
That's awesome, man. Great work, really, to all you guys out there. Um, when I think of Salt Lake City, isn't that where they had the Winter Classic where the Bruins played?
No. So we did have, as far as Winter Classic, we haven't had a Winter Classic. We have had the Winter Olympics though. That was in 2002. That's kind of where all the ice rinks got built and everything like that. Um, there is NHL preseason games that are played there every year, like the Kings and the Sharks typically, or the Kings and the Golden Knights will play there. But as far as Boston playing in the Winter Classic, I think they've played at Fenway and they've played. I want to say Pittsburgh on the other one, but I could be dead wrong on that one. But
I think I would know this being a Boston fan, right? So
no worries.
I know they played at Fenway Park in Boston. They played the Flyers there, and then they
Right.
they went back there again a couple years ago. Maybe it wasn't. I thought it was Utah where the
Oh,
the
I know what you're
Bruins
talking
came out
about.
and they wore these
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
glasses.
yeah,
They
yeah,
wore an
yeah. It
80s
was
theme. What am I thinking? Is
oh
that
man.
different state? Am I in the right state anyway?
It is a different state. It's actually where
Okay.
the newest ECHL team is going to go, and I am drawing the worst blank of my life right now on it's Lake Tahoe. That's where I
Thank
was.
you. Okay,
Lake Tahoe. Yeah, I was like
where's
my friends would roast me if I didn't know that, so I had
okay,
to I had to come through on that.
where is Lake Tahoe then?
I believe,
We should look that up, right?
yeah, I want to say Arizona.
Is it? Okay, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look. This is gonna
Let's
bother me,
see.
Tommy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm down with trivia too.
Where's our producer when you need him, right? Where is Lake Tahoe, Nevada?
Nevada. All right.
That's where they played, though, right? I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because I remember the sun was kind of causing some issues with the
Yes,
ice. I remember that, and Pasta came out in the Barbie glasses when he
you
was done.
got
All
it.
right, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's
That's a
right. You
great
got it.
interview.
Nailed it.
Great interview.
That's right. Okay, thank you. So Lake
Yeah,
Tahoe is not in Utah. Okay,
correct.
sorry
Yeah.
about. I don't know my geography clearly.
Oh,
So,
hey, well, I don't either. So that makes two of us. We'll leave that to the experts.
we learned that today. Yeah, don't call us for your geography lesson at school, right? Remember learning the capitals, Tommy? Did you have to do that in
The
elementary
worst.
school?
The worst. I was never good in school like that. Anyway, I'd rather be out there playing hockey, and so yeah, I'm trying to do. Like obviously hockey teams helped with it because some of the city names were in there, but other than that, like I don't know, I only did good on the sports logo
This
quizzes.
one.
That was it.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Thanks for clarifying all that. I
Oh
appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so are you 2 hours from Las Vegas then?
Yeah, 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And
we're right on the border of Arizona, Nevada, and yeah, Arizona, Nevada. And yeah, it's about a 2-hour drive just down I-15. Not bad at all. You can
it
pop into Vegas and go catch a game.
people in your area, are they more Knights fans or do they prefer the Coyotes?
Knights,
Knights,
definitely.
because it's closer.
We do have a lot of Kings fans because
Okay.
Trevor Lewis, who played on the King, he's on the Kings currently in the NHL. He won the two cups with them, back in the 2012 and 2014, I believe it was. So he was the second player ever drafted from Salt Lake into the NHL. So a lot of Kings fans there. But yeah, we've got pretty much a menagerie of everything. It
Uh,
used to be Coyotes back in the day if you're talking like Roenick and Kachuk days and everything like
okay.
that. But now definitely the Golden Knights, since they've come in, they've just completely taken it over.
Makes
It's
sense.
be crazy to see actually. Like I went to the Kings and Sharks preseason game up in Salt Lake at the Delta Center there, and how the Knights always say Knights during the national anthem. You had fans doing that, and like that's a Kings and Sharks game, but whatever. So that just goes to show you the pull they have even 6 hours away.
That's cool. That's really cool. I mean, my assumption would be is before the Knights moved in, maybe it would be the Coyotes, but hearing you guys have like Kings bands, that's interesting too. New England's
Yeah.
interesting. Have you ever been up to New England by any chance? Have you been up to?
Yeah, so I've been to Boston. Ironically, it was with Trevor Lewis. So Trevor Lewis used to date my sister for a long time. And so when he was coming up through the King system, he was with Manchester.
Okay.
So he flew me out to Manchester when I was playing hockey in Cincinnati. And he's like,
Wow.
"Hey, come spend the
Small
weekend or
world.
whatever." Yeah, right. So man,
Small
I
world.
got a real dose of Manch Vegas that weekend. That was cool. I got to go watch let's see, it was the Monarchs, and I think it was the Worcester Sharks at the time. I think they're the Barracuda now and have been relocated. But yeah, the Worcester Sharks. I went and saw that game, and then I got to go out with the team after, and that was pretty cool. You know, they were legends out there, and it was
That's
the
cool.
neatest thing in the world. So yeah, that's the only time I've been through Boston. We drove from Manchester all the way to Boston just for kind of a day trip, you know, or whatever, and then came back, and it was super cool. Like
That's
just
awesome.
it's a city that just breathes completely different than anything out west here, you know.
Oh, I can only imagine how different Manchester, New Hampshire is versus like what it's out there. I mean, I've been to Manchester many times. I actually lived about this was a couple years ago when I met my wife. I lived in Concord, New Hampshire, which is about 20 minutes up the
Sure.
road, if you will.
Yeah.
And we went to a Monarchs game. This is a true story. My parents came up. My brother came up. My brother Danny and his daughters. My kids were they were much younger, probably like 3 or 4 years old at this time. And my brother has twins. And we went to a Monarchs game. But at that time, it was now the East Coast Hockey League.
Right.
So we
Right.
go to the game, and my oldest daughter Bella, um, who's 8 now, she just wanted to get out of there so fast. She just didn't like the noise and the volume. Now, you ever see one of the pro athletes? They have their kids wearing the headphones.
Sure. Yeah.
She might have done better with the headphones, but I mean, the place wasn't even packed either. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah.
But she was like, I just that's all I remember is them wanting to go home. Like you're like, I'll go buy you gummy bears if you just can watch another period or so. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
we'll,
absolutely.
so but it's amazing you've been there. I had gone see the Monarchs when they were part of the AHL
Yeah.
a couple years ago. I think my stepsons were they didn't I think they went to like the parade when they actually won the AHL. Whatever I can't what's the do you know the trophy for the AHL is? I can't remember
Yeah,
now.
it's the Calder Cup.
Calder
Yep.
Cup. Thank you.
Yep.
That slipped my
Yep.
mind. No
No,
problem.
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But up here in Boston, the Bruins have, a far reach where, you go into Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. There's always, it seems like there's this line in Connecticut that, I mean, they had the whales at one point, right? So
Right.
they
Right.
don't
Yeah.
really, but like Providence, I mean, there's probably some Providence guys that are listening to this probably saying this is not true, but I think they are fans, I don't know. Um, but it's such a big drawing. The Bruins are a huge part of New England. They're part of the culture and everything. So it makes sense that you would have like, different people in Utah that would have rooting for different people. But
Oh yeah, no, it's like it's kind of pick your own team thing, you know. Like for example, like I'm a big Red Wings fan,
oh,
so like
yeah,
that's who I follow. Now that's what's tough is it's like okay, Vegas is close to you, so you root for them to do good, you know. But like the Wings will always be my team. But now, if Utah gets the team, I don't know what to do. I mean, you got to stay loyal, you know, but like I can't imagine not being a Wings fan moving forward. That's the tough part about it. And I don't know if you've ever been around Utah sports organizations, you
I
know,
haven't.
we're I don't know. We're always really good, but we're never good enough, you know. It's
Gotcha.
that's the tough part. But that's actually we used to have quite the hockey following in Salt Lake back in the day. Like my parents would tell me about the days, and I played with a lot of guys who they used to play for the old Salt Lake Golden Eagles. So they were part of the CHL to begin with, and then that went to the IHL.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so and then we were the Calgary Flames farm team back in the day. So like Theo Fleury played for the Salt Lake Golden Eagles.
I didn't know that.
We yeah, we have a lot of those just random guys that you know pass through or whatever, and unfortunately, you know, the Utah Jazz owner at the time, he didn't like the competition with the basketball team, so he moved him to Detroit, and they ultimately became the Detroit Vipers of the IHL. You know,
Wow.
so believe it or not, Salt Lake hockey used to have quite the fandom of of followers. It was pretty crazy. My dad still has a lot of the old memorabilia, like old pucks and stuff, and like I used to train with a lot of the old players, or the one guy opened a pro shop or whatever. So it's pretty cool. I honestly, I know the Utah team will be a Utah name behind it. It won't be Salt Lake, unfortunately. But I was like,
Okay.
we should have brought back the Golden Eagles.
Don't
That
worry.
would have been really cool.
That's cool.
But we'll see how it goes. I don't know.
So I'd love for you to paint the picture of what hockey is like in Utah, like what the I guess like the vibe or the culture is. I mean, obviously you already know this. In New England, ice hockey is really the most dominant form of hockey that we have. Most
Sure,
kids in my area that I grew up in, ball hockey is really brand new. They think the rink is cool, but they've never seen it. And we're not far from the Mecca of Leominster. We're about an hour and 15 minutes away.
sure.
But if you don't mind, just sort of painting a picture of what it's like growing up in Utah and what hockey's like.
Yeah, well, it was something that accelerated pretty quick after the Olympics. I started when I was 7, so that would have put me right about, I don't know, 96 ish or something like that. And we only had, I think we had like 2 rinks was all, and one was way out west in the middle of nowhere, just in this bubble, just
Mm.
wind swarm place with a bubble in the middle of nowhere, and just cold as all cold could be. Let me tell you, it was like, I remember my parents first helping me out. They donated all the equipment there, so you like your parents. You're there like 6 in the morning, and it's like 2 degrees outside, and you're going through just tubs and tubs of elbow pads to see which ones will work. So yeah, that's what it looked like beforehand. So it was really hard to find good hockey programs. And then, flash forward to 2002, we get the Olympics. All of a sudden, we got to have practice facilities now, and we had the E Center at the time, which housed our AHL team at the time, now our ECHL team, the Utah Grizzlies. And they built just probably 4 rinks within 2.5 years, and hockey just took off. Like, it was like, okay, you can drive 15 minutes any direction and go to an Olympic funded rink. So that old place that was the bubble became the Olympic Oval. So that's where Anton Ono set the record for the fastest lap or whatever he did. Like,
Speed skater,
yeah,
speed
yep,
skater, right?
and yeah, so they had a big speed skating rink around us, and then two rinks on the inside of that, full workout facilities, bikes, everything, like the whole nines. And every rink you went to, it was like it was done up to the nines. It was the highest quality possible. So we got really spoiled that way, which is good. And so it created a lot of competitive leagues, a lot of double A teams. I think our biggest issue was someone didn't like the way that one thing was run at one program, so they went and started their own. And we'd be 25 minutes apart distance wise, but we'd have to compete against each other if it was ever to move on to a regional, to ultimately move on to a national. And
Sure.
so a lot of our best talent got pitted against each other, which was good, but we suffered depth because of that. So like our third lines were probably, more liabilities than anything out there on each team, so it made it fair. But then some guys came in and they're like, well, we're just going to create an all-star team and we'll go to our own tournaments. And so they started picking select teams and everything like that. And that was kind of frowned upon by a lot of the Utah organizations. And so unfortunately, a lot of that kind of organizational political stuff gets in the way of a lot of growth. But that being said, like, Utah is an insane pocket for hockey players. Like, you will have so much talent. A lot of it, unfortunately, swallowed up by the state. Just either they don't get these same opportunities as a lot of the other ones that are in big markets do. Because it's tough to get a scout to come out to Salt Lake to see you or anything like that. But if you left when you were 14, you were probably going to make it. You were at least going to play some level of pro hockey, and a lot of the people that came up through our AA programs or our AAA programs eventually played in a lot of Division III NCAA, or they played Canadian Junior A hockey and stuff like that. And a few of those guys turned those into pro careers for a little bit, and but other than that, it's always kind of, I wish I could have seen it if it didn't have its own hurdles get in the way, because if we would have unified the programs and built it out by skill level and had everyone kind of get on the same page, I mean, it's a great state to travel from. We've got all the good competition in California that's less than, 9 to 12 hours away. Or if you're going to jump on a plane, it's an hour and a half and you're there. You've got Vegas and Nevada all over that's got good programs. You've got Colorado to the east of
Of
you.
course.
You've got Idaho to the north. You've got Montana there. All these, Washington with all of their junior A programs, everything like that. We were surrounded by great hockey. It was just unfortunate that really the people couldn't put their heads together and figure out a good way to continue to grow our own players within our organizations instead of, hey, get them to a point and then go ahead and sit your 14-year-old down and go, okay, you're going to go live with somebody else in another state, and hope this works out, and for the people that it did, I mean, it was great. They loved it. And I don't know. I lived with a billet mom when I was playing junior A, and some of the best times of my life. But for sure, when your dad's sending you out the door with the Ford Focus, and you got to drive 1,600 miles across the country when you're 17 years old, you're a little bit scared,
Definitely.
But it was good. It's all good and fun. It's all hockey at the end of the day, which makes it even better. So,
That's awesome. So how old were you when you got into the game of hockey then?
um, I'd say 7.
Seven.
My parents tried to teach me how to skate when I was 4, and I hated it. Hated it. It was, but they put you in those rental skates, and they were the rental figure skates at the time. So like there's these hardened plastic things that don't feel comfy. And I mean, a figure skate blade's way different than a hockey blade, obviously. So I hated it. But my dad would watch some NHL games, and I would kind of peek over and be like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is, something I could definitely get into. And I had rollerblades at home, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try this out." And so I took the old Milek purple bladed stick, that had the holes in the blade that everyone
Yeah.
kind of knows is
Oh yeah.
their first street hockey stick,
That's
right?
right. The airflow. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
airflow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I took that out with a yellow Nerf ball. Just one of those little knee hockey balls, that my son likes to shoot at me at 100 miles per hour. But I took one of those out, and I started shooting on the garbage cans. Just getting familiar with it. And all of a sudden, my dad comes pulling in the driveway one day, and he's like, hey, you're not bad on skates. Like, my boss at my work, he runs the local league up there at the bubble. If you want to go try this out. And said, sure. My dad went and found me like a little $40 pair of skates at what was called Gart Brothers back in the day at our local sports shop here. And went and used all the equipment that was donated, and went out my first game and got a goal and was hooked ever since. So it was like
Awesome.
just kind of took off from there. And then after my first year of recreational league, I actually made my first travel team called the Utah Junior Grizzlies, and we got to travel all the way up the all over the West Coast, all the way up through Canada, and play all their teams and do all that. And kind of just went crazy from there. It was pretty much double A hockey all the way up until
That's awesome.
yeah, till the AAA days
Awesome.
at 18 and under. But it was neat. It was cool. It took me a lot of cool places. I was very fortunate. Absolutely.
That's awesome. You and I have some parallels because my dad told me that he put me on skates. I don't remember this. I don't remember this at all. Um, when I think it was 3 that he put me on skates, try to skate the ugliest. I mean, I'm an 83 born, so the ugliest skates you can imagine, right?
Sure.
At the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he would put me out there. There's a picture of me with this red helmet and this like this huge cage, and I look so angry in this picture. And my dad would tell you a story. He's like, when I got my son out there playing, it was literally like he'd rather be home playing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters.
Right. Right.
That was my deal. That's what I'd rather be doing. And clearly, but it was funny. Once I learned to skate is when I really kind of fell in love with the game and I really enjoyed it. And then it just became my life. But the story that you made me think of, like putting on those rental skates where your
Oh
ankles are
yeah.
burning. Okay, this story is ridiculous. So since we started our women's division last in June of 2023, it's funny because you guys started in 2023. We built our rink in 2023, and but Young Legends been around for 20 years because we just played on
Right.
a
Right.
basketball court. So anyway, my wife and I decided to go to Aruba because I'm turning 40, she's 35, just to get away from everything for a week. We went in December. And when you go to Aruba, you don't think about hockey. you don't think so. And of course, my wife's like, you think you could build a rink in Aruba? And I'm like, oh my goodness, imagine Tommy having like keep a ice rink
Oh,
out
right.
down in
Right.
the middle of the Caribbean. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe ball hockey for sure, but I don't know. So anyway, our last night there, have you ever been to the Caribbean or Aruba by any chance? Any?
No,
Okay.
no, definitely not. No.
I I'd encourage you to go someday. It's beautiful, beautiful country. But and so anyway, in Aruba, there's a tourist area where you can go. It's like a marketplace. There's all kinds of there's a shops. You can shop around. There's actually a casino there, and then we didn't go in there, but you can eat. So the last night we were there, we were eating, and there was basically this mariachi band that came and played in front of you. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm rolling my eyes, but
Sure.
they were excellent. The band was excellent, but I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, just we don't need to be serenaded right now. I'm incredibly, you know what I mean, like socially uncomfortable with this stuff. So off, literally, they had like this area where there was a stage and you could dance while there's music being played, and right behind this stage was a quote unquote little rink. And Aaron's like, "Oh my God, Kyle, we got to go over there. We gotta look at this rink. Come on, you got to go." So I go over
Yeah.
there, and this rink, Tommy, it was like a little square, and you know how I don't know how what it's out in Utah. I'm sure they have it now, but there's like synthetic ice.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
glice now that's supposed to be legitimate. This
Right.
this was not glice. This was like a plastic material that because obviously you can't keep a rink cold in Aruba. Come on, people
Right.
do that
Right.
for the beer. So anyway, she's like, I want to go skate on this, and I'm like, I'm not going out there, right? So they have this little like I don't know how to describe it. It's like this little hut, if you will, and they have
Yeah.
all these rental skates. And she's like, you got to go with me. You got to go with me. So I'm like, all right, I'll do this for you. They give me the skates, I put them on. There's no support, so my ankles immediately are like this. And for a guy who's played hockey all his life, played in college, she's like, yeah, just
Right.
just go out there first and let me know what you think. Tommy, I couldn't even skate. It was
Oh, I bet
like
not.
they're so dull. It's not ice, and I'm like, at one point, I'm like, did you do this to embarrass me or something? And you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't move. So she actually, if I don't know if we have the video, but if you ever watch her like she skated so much better than I did. And like I said, my ankles were just like
Oh,
collapsing
yeah.
on. So anyway, sorry for that random story of Aruba, but
No, that's great, man.
yeah,
Those are like one day. Actually, I think everybody has a story about rental
yeah.
skates that they're like, all
Oh,
right, this makes me want to light my feet on fire here, or whatever. So I like that.
yeah.
And the fact you ran across hockey in Aruba,
Is it
like
crazy? It's crazy. Yeah.
I think hockey follows hockey players around.
It's so too.
I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, like, no offense to the other sports out there or anything like that, but it is one of those things that it's like hockey's more than a sport. It's an environment. It's like even you and I, we haven't talked a lot or anything, just a couple messages back and forth, but it's crazy the parallels that we can go to. And you're all the way on the east side of things, I'm all the way on the west side of things. And I don't know, there's just always that environmental bubble that hockey seems
It's
to keep you in. And I don't know, I think that's what keeps on bringing us back to it,
it sure does. I mean, there's such I like that's what I love about this podcast too. Is so many people I connect with that have similar stories. Or what I hope people realize is that how much effort goes into this, the amount of work that even you do with your kids, the videos that you make, everything, like the technique that you're trying to show them, things that you and I take advantage of, like what we know so well, like.
Right.
Our women's program has really been eye-opening to me because everything that I like, sometimes I'll be speaking and I'll use a term like tag up at the blue line. They
Right.
have
Right. Right.
no concept of what that means.
Right.
It's just little things that you and I would it's not take advantage of, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
but
take it for granted. Yeah,
take it
no,
for
I know
granted.
what you're
You
saying.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
It's
Yeah.
more like and it's a lot of fun to be able to teach these things, and you realize you're like, wow, I did do a lot of training. And we'll get into this in a little while with your NBHL, what's coming up for you. But I
Mhm.
played NBHL tier 2 and I played tier 3 last year. And I'm like, this is a huge jump. These kids are, and I say kids because I'm 40. there's
Right.
probably some 25-year-olds out there bombing around.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I can't keep up anymore. I felt my age, Tommy, is what I'm saying. I felt my age, and
Hey, I'm right there with you. And I will tell you this, as a person who's grown up in the ice hockey realm or the roller hockey realm, like I never played ball hockey until I moved down
sure.
here. My first game, I might as well have been Bambi, like it was walking on ice kind of thing. Like ball hockey is such a different, it's a different sport when you don't get to skate around people. Like
Totally
sure, you can still be good at stick handling, you can still be good at shooting, you can like,
great.
but just those bursts of speed that I've seen from some players, because like I play, in tier three as well. I play for the Sin City Biohazard out here. Um, but it is crazy. Like I come off after a ball hockey game, I'm so much more sore than any full contact ice hockey game that I ever had. Like it's
Cool.
crazy how fast that game is, how much you always have to keep your head on a swivel, and how much you kind of got to like really store your energy because you're not gliding out here. Like when you
No,
stop moving, you stop moving. You got to get going again, and it's only your legs that are going to get you going again. So that was eye opening to me. I remember that first game I got so frustrated just because I felt like I didn't know how to play, and it's like, and I played all these years. It's like, what am I doing? But that's almost what got me hooked. Like it was like, okay, it's still the same game as far as positioning is concerned. It's still the same game as far as that's concerned. So it's like, okay, we'll get back up and let's see. And then every single ball hockey game that I've played in, I've gone in with that level of discomfort, but I've come out going, I can't wait till I get to play my next one. Like I can't. It just gets better and
awesome.
better every single time you play. You're like, okay, this is cool. It's starting to compound upon each other, and now it's almost like, you know some days I will crave ball hockey way more than I would crave like, oh, I wish I was near a rink right now so I could go ice skating. It's like, no, man, it's cool. Grab your shin guards, grab your helmet, grab your gloves, grab your stick. Let's go play. Like that's
Absolutely.
that's the rad part about it. But
You mentioned something just then. It kind of talks a little bit more about your mindset, and I'll give you an example, and I'm gonna show vulnerability here. So last night I'm on the bench, right, in our game. My brother Dan actually got the game winner, so I was so happy for him.
yeah,
He got a penalty. He came off, jumped up. He's a defenseman. He jumped up to the forwards. Nice goal, right over the goalie's glove side. Beautiful goal. And I was just so happy for him. On the bench, though, in my mind, you've been in these games, and even as an ice hockey player, when you get to that higher level, you're like, I'm not fast enough. I'm not
right,
fast enough. And you're like, okay, because what we talk about with the women a lot is the women hockey's brand new to them.
right.
So they're just different species anyway. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll
No,
never
definitely.
understand my wife anyway, and she'll agree with that. Um, but what I'm saying though is like there's people that are when they come up against a challenge, they figure out a way to get over that hump. Whereas there's other people that like, and like I said last night, I'm like, oh, am I even ready for this level? Like, do I need to hit the gym? Like, is that
Right.
like I'm gonna have to
Right.
go back to the drawing board to get faster and stronger? So my question around that is, what makes you think that way, where you're like, okay, I've got a challenge ahead of me, I go for it. What's your mindset around that, Tommy? Does that make
Oh,
sense, by the way?
no, total sense. Number one, I am very competitive. I hate to lose. Probably more than I love to win. Sometimes, which I mean, that's good and bad, right? Sometimes you got to leave it out there and just let lick your wounds and then come back for another day. But when I was a kid growing up, you know, my dad really taught me about overcoming adversity because I mean, we talk about the expenses of hockey and everything like that. I didn't come from a family that had, a lot of money or anything like that, but my dad and my mom, you know, they worked their butts off so I had another opportunity at hockey. And that was the one thing that I saw as a young kid that it's like I took with me that it's like, okay, no matter how bad it gets, you just got to find another gear and overcome it. And there's obviously some things that you're going to walk into and you're like, okay, this just isn't for me and I'm going to go away from it. But like
Mm, I agree.
I I like a challenge. I like when there's doubt involved because that's just fuel in the tank. And really at the end of the day, you feel a lot better about yourself when you are vulnerable and when the chips are down and you overcome something like that, and you feel that level of success, and it's like this didn't come to me easy. Ice hockey was a little bit different. Like I will say, like, there's some people that just when they put skates on their feet, they can skate. Hockey sense is another one of those things that you can just tell, like, when a person kind of knows and understands the game, and it just may come to them a little bit easier. Ice hockey always came very easy to me.
Mm.
Ball hockey was the first part of hockey after 25 years of it that challenged me. It was just like, hey, no, like, you're not like just gonna skate around everybody here, and there's gonna be people that are so good at their position that they completely eliminate you from the game. We got a guy from Boston, speaking of, in our Red Rock hockey program, and he plays with us in the NBHL as well. He's probably the oldest guy in our organization. He's in the best shape and probably has one of the greatest hockey minds that I've ever seen. He's so good defensively. He's so good at his position. His shots are so well thought out. He doesn't turn the ball over. He does the little things right. And he drives people like me crazy that I'm trying to get around him. He's always in the right position. It just doesn't matter. There's nothing I can do, and I kind of wanted some of that. Like, I kind of wanted to be like, okay, you're vulnerable in something you felt so comfortable in all these years. It's like, well, let's see how far you can push this. And it's weird to fall in love with the same sport from a different angle all over again. Like, that was eye opening to me. And like, that's why I do it. Is it's like, oh, there's something different here that people haven't tapped into, or they haven't seen, or they haven't, like, been exposed to, and just like I wasn't. I didn't know about it until I moved down here, and then before you know it, you're playing in one game, tying your shoelaces together as you're trying to run up the court, and just the ball's going the other way all the time. And then the next game, it's like, okay, I actually put one in this time. Okay, all right, now I'm understanding where to use the speed. Now it's like a new addiction to the same sport that I grew up and loved playing, but it's from a completely different lens, which is humbling, and that's cool to me.
As a player in ball hockey, what type of game style do you like playing? Do you like sort of playing the possession game? Obviously, ball hockey, there's a lot of possession, but do you like to slow the game down, or are you more of a kind of like run and gun type of player? Or
Oh,
tough question.
well, I just I so I'm obsessive and I'm very analytical. So the minute that I can define something, it means that I need to get better at something else. So my style of game, I would say, is just blue collar. Like, I play center and I love winning faceoffs. That's one of my favorite things on planet Earth. I love being like the freedom of the center position where you can help out in D, but you can also kind of use it to your offensive advantage and get some speed and go up the other way. But also, like, I want to turn the other team on their ear. For example, we were playing in the Chetty Cup, about 6 months back there in California, and I just noticed that the goalie would go down to one knee randomly just to rest. And even if he thought the ball was going the other way, or if you even took it in the corner, he would just go down to that one knee, just kind of out of habit, and that's how he'd catch his breath. And so I got the ball in the corner one time, and I just turned around and I fired it right over that shoulder of where he would go down, and he didn't expect it. And it barely had enough room to go in. Ultimately, I got lucky. It went in. It hit off the crossbar off his back and went in. And there was a lot of people who are like, why did you even shoot that? Why did you even think to shoot that? It's like, because I saw that that's his go down knee. Like, that's, it's an opportunity to score, and that's the hardest thing to do in this game. And so I love gritty, but I love creative. I love finesse. I would
Awesome,
just
all
say I'm
top
I'm
thinking.
all around. I'm
All right.
all around. Yeah, just whatever is good by me. If you want to, if the refs are going to put the whistles away and it gets a little bit, bumpy and chippy and everything like that, great. I can play well in that game. You got to earn your space in front of the net. But if it's going to be opened up a little bit and we want to skill it up a little bit, cool. Yeah, we can really do that and keep up with the pace of play that way. So I don't know. I just like remaining creative.
That's awesome. Speaking of the Chetty Cup, I mean, did you go up against that Massachusetts team, or they're different divisions?
different division, but I will say
The Shamrocks,
that
right?
that was some of the most impressive positioning I have ever seen on a rink. Like, and it didn't matter what I watched them game one, and I watched the last game that they were in. They did not deviate from their plan one bit. If they made a mistake, it was rare, and they would go get two more after that. Like, just as far as answering the bell, like, oh, they had one breakdown. All right, they'd go score two in about 4 minutes, and you're like, but everybody knew their job. No one had to even talk out there. They knew where they were going to be. They were just a different level. And the team that they beat in the championship, I can't remember the team off the top of my head, so I apologize to them for that. But they gave him a good fight, but you can just tell that it's East Coast Shamrocks, right?
Special team.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
that was another level.
fortunate that those guys are. Brett Holman was actually on the podcast a couple weeks ago. He's one of the
I
founders
saw that.
of that
Yeah, I
team.
saw that. That's cool.
And Brett is just a great guy overall. Just they're excellent. But Brandon Jones is on that team, and he's going to be on U.S. Nationals this year, going to Switzerland, and he can
Yeah,
that kid can snipe it. I could. It was great. We had a fundraising tournament in my hometown at our rink, and he was there, so we got to meet him in person. Guy can shoot. It's just he's
sure.
tall. He's what I mean. But like that team, what talking to Brett, it's those guys have been playing together, for a long time, and they grew up in Leominster. I'm not saying they lived in that town, but they grew up in that area. They grew up in those programs, and
Yeah,
they're just I'm fortunate enough that if I go to Leominster for a tournament with our women's team, they're usually there playing, and you can see them in live in person, and
right.
they fly, and 2 weeks ago, last week, Nick Carter was on the podcast, which was a great conversation. He's an exceptional player. I,
Right.
I got to see some of these guys down and that's the thing is I wish you guys would come this way more to see like these East Coast tournaments in Pennsylvania. I mean, the North Americans, watching them in person is just it's so fast. They make decisions so quickly.
Oh,
And like
absolutely.
and like I said yesterday, my brother and I we were talking about this morning after our NBHL game last night. It was like he was like, "Yeah, I realized like the minute you think you have a little bit of space, there's a guy right behind you." And I'm
Right.
like, "Yeah." And that's where, and like I said, for me, it's like, okay. And I'm going to be frank. I mean, I got to lose about 15 pounds or turn into muscle at least. I'm like, you know what I mean? So
Right. Yeah.
know, uh, in order for me to be competing at that level, I have to be in better shape. And as you get older, you got to work even harder. There's
Oh,
no
100%. 100%. Yeah.
there really is no days off. So, but I appreciate what you're saying because it's you know, whatever game you want to play it. I like the game where I'm more of a finesse player. I always
Hmm.
have been. I mean, when I get angry and pissed off, yeah, I'll probably throw my body around a little bit. Now that I'm older,
Sure. Yeah.
inappropriate, I lose my head at times. But I love to slow the game down, make a good pass. I've always been more of a playmaker than a shooter too. So I'm
Nice.
just curious on how, that's great. You can mix it up. So, but with your career,
Mhm.
how did you get involved in Red Rock? How did this all come about?
Well, honestly, it was I had lived my whole life up in Salt Lake. I'd been up there for about 25 years. My parents had purchased a second home down here in a town called Hurricane, which is not too far outside of St. George, which is where Red Rock Hockey's located out of. And I just wanted something new. I didn't really know anything different other than a big city and a life full of hockey. And I was married at the time, and I know my wife. She spent countless hours in cold rinks and waiting for the boys to finish up in the locker room after men's league. Which isn't always fun. So I was like, hey, we'll go find something new. Down here down south where we kind of don't have hockey, and maybe we could do some outside stuff or whatever. There's lots of hiking, mountain biking, everything down here. Well, we tried lots of stuff, and I don't know. I just never found anything that was like hockey that continued to keep me intrigued. And walking through the mall one day during December, and they had an outdoor rink set up, which you definitely don't see in St. George hardly ever. I didn't even know that they did that, and I saw a flyer for Red Rock Hockey, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so I pick it up and I'm like, okay, they've got, adult and kids leagues and it looks like it's on foot. That's different than what I'm used to, but I've been away from the sport for so long. I kind of want to have something to do on the weekdays again. I kind of want to, get back into it and everything like that. And so I registered. I signed myself up and my son up, who was 4 at the time, and man, I just went over there in the spring and kind of saw the operation and what they were doing, and just started volunteering. Um, Started out coaching some of the 8 and under teams, and then I had a 14 under team as well, because we were pretty low on volunteers at the time since it was so new, and we have to have someone. We actually, for our score clock, we have a TV that we plug an
Yeah.
iPad into with a scoreboard app.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Love it.
and it's like it's like, obviously it's not a legitimate quote unquote scoreboard, but like it's those little things that kind of give our program swagger, which I really like. That it
Love it.
just goes to show you, it's like we're working hard for everything that we got here, and so yeah, just started helping out coaching, and then they were kind of talking about, oh well, we might meet with the city on this, and we don't really know how to get this going, and we have no social media presence, and I love social media. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I know there's a lot of stuff out there that obviously turns it the other way pretty quick, but as far as being able to stay up to date with something and create something that's very genuine, there's not a lot of things you can do that with anymore. And social media is a great way to express what your program reflects in the form of a human being. And so I just said, hey, let me help out with some of the social media stuff. And I started racking my brain on what I could do content wise, because honestly, I didn't even know if people would even show up for my videos, right? Just because it's like, okay, how do I make this quick, precise, but still entertaining? And I started doing these weekly recaps of just the teams that got the wins. And through that, I could actually continue to plug our website or plug our sponsors or anything like that. It just gave us some good sticky paper, and started doing that. And all of a sudden, they came to me and they're like, hey, you want to be like a full-time like board member of this? Like, you kind of seem, you've been around organizations that how they're run, and kind of what not to do. And we're trying to figure out how to do that to begin with. And you're really the only one with any, experience from the hockey level of it, other than, like, I mean, Corey, that guy has done so much to keep this motor running, and he's still doing it as he's running. you know he's launched his own schools that are online. He's a part of the school district down here in Washington County, and he works with Cedar City as well. He's got a family of 3 kids, or four kids, so he does all of that and then does all of this as well, and he just keeps
Right.
everything going. Our other board member, Doug, he's a cabinet maker full time. He's got 2 kids at home with his wife and everything like that, and we just kind of figured out different ways we can contribute and have positive outturn on it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, more people started watching the videos. Um, we got a crazy amount of increased website traffic. Our numbers doubled for the kids' ages, and really, we didn't have to do much marketing at all. It kind of just turned into its own energy, and really, the only way I can explain it is it's a miracle. It really is, to watch like 8 guys start in a parking lot, and now I
It's
mean, we
awesome.
just recently met with the city that we're probably going to have. I mean, fingers crossed. I obviously, you don't count your eggs before they hatch or whatever it is, but like, we're in the works with creating a double rink setup where we're at to a point where we could host regional tournaments. Hopefully, the Milet Cup would be in that conversation as well if we continue to work
That'd be
with some of
cool.
the stuff. Try to increase the Western presence of ball hockey a little bit, kind of to recreate what you guys have out east, where, I don't know, so cool, the nostalgia. Like, I've been watching some of the ball hockey league games online, and how you have these rinks just right in the neighborhood. It's like Cooperstown of hockey. It's crazy. It's like, it looks like something you would play in a video game. Where, like, yeah, I could totally see a rink just being right in that neighborhood, and everyone just shows up. That's something that's kind of brand new to us out here, and obviously people have the appetite for it, because now, our volunteer numbers are through the roof, and not only are we doubling kids and more adults getting signed up. Our sponsorships are coming through, and we're working with larger donations now, which is great. We're our own 501c3, so that helps quite a bit. And there's a lot of local programs here that want to help out with something like that because they all love hockey and they all want hockey. And
Absolutely.
that makes the most amount of sense for where we live and what people can afford. And it's pretty cool. That the other thing that separates us, I think, from a lot of youth programs is we like to treat our kids like pros. Like if we make you feel like a pro at the end of the day, everyone's going to be happy. So there's little things we do. We play music during our games, in between intermissions and stuff like that. During the playoffs, we've got every kid's voice recorded, and
That's
we
cool.
hey, this goal scored by number 17, or whatever. We do all those things. At the end of the year, we did player cards for all the kids. And if it was your first season, you got your own rookie card that you could hold on to, had all your stats on the back. But also, we donate all of the helmets and all of the sticks. So,
Wow.
all to do if you have a kid that's wanting to come play hockey, I think our league registration this year was like $67. It gets you 9 games plus 4 practices total throughout the year. Plus we do mini camps and stuff like that. But 67 bucks and your kid can come try it out. And if they like it, great. That a lot of kids have found their sport with us, which is super cool. But if it turns out they wanted to do something else, okay. Well, now you didn't just outfit your kid in $1,500 worth of ice hockey gear and they turn out not to like it, right? It's like, oh, it's 65 bucks and we're on to something else. But and on the other side of that, like we've had kids that haven't gravitated towards any sport that show up that their parents are just trying to have them do something random off the wall, and hockey they go nuts with. Like it turns out like it just turns the light on in the kid, and you watch them just completely rip it up, and they've got all the fundamental skills, everything, and their kids or their parents are like, we've never seen he or she act like this before. And it's like, yeah, so a lot of people have kind of found our program the same way I found it, where it's just like, hey, sometimes you gotta look around and you've got all the best things right in front of you, so it's pretty cool. But
Yeah, you guys doing that's a great job. I love the creativity of making your program different from like I don't know how popular baseball is out there, football,
right.
ice hockey up here, anything that you can do to separate yourself. Kids will remember this stuff. One of our board of directors was telling me one day that when I first started the program out, it was literally it was played on a basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
And now our first season we had like 35 kids. It wasn't a lot of
Mm-hmm.
kids. And we had an all-star game, which was picked by me. So
Mm-hmm.
I wrote them a letter that, congratulations, you made the all-star game. Now
Yeah.
half the league made the all-star game because I had a hard time turning kids away,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but one of my board directors, he's been on this podcast a couple of years ago. He was telling me, he goes, I loved receiving the letter in the mail that had my team name on it. And
Yep.
I said, I didn't know that mattered to you. It's a little things, Tommy, that you don't realize you're making an impact with these kids, the rookie card, things like that. And
Yeah.
20 years goes by and someone comes up to you and goes, "Hey, I remember when you did that for me." And I think that's what's unique about our sport.
100%.
It's like we're like I've been so impressed. Like even the NBHL, the amount of video. Like my brother was saying to me yesterday, this morning too. He was saying to me, he goes, what makes it legitimate is the fact that everybody's wearing equipment. Everybody's wearing the same uniform. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you got a
Yep.
home and away jersey. It just makes it so much more legitimate that, if we ever want to go to the Olympics, which I saw a comment from someone, how is breakdancing in the Olympics but not ball hockey? I don't have an answer for that. But that John Stamos was a friend of mine he's actually part of MS3 who makes the surface the tile. So that was his comment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And but he's right. I don't know. But it's just like like you said with the scoreboard, the
Yeah.
TV. I mean, NBHL Boston last year, our director Matt Schreibeck, he had a TV, and that's what we were watching for our games, for the scoreboard, and it worked out well. And like you said, the app. I mean, little
Yeah.
things like that. It shows people how dedicated but also professional you are. And like I said, I don't see that in every other sport. I don't see that as much. Like I feel like ball hockey's constantly trying to raise the status quo, but as you said, we don't take things for granted, and we just,
Right.
I guess we don't have the luxury as these other main quote unquote mainstream sports, which I think ball hockey's mainstream anyway. But you know what I mean? So
No, I definitely hear. I mean, even like I've got, I've got a son and a daughter, and they both participate in, recreation youth sports with our local city. I mean, the one game, my son, they couldn't even get refs to show up. When the refs do show up, they don't know the rules, and because they don't know the rules, the kids don't know the rules. They don't learn the rules that way. And look, I mean, I'm not here to throw, rocks at
oh
a
yeah,
glass house.
totally.
Obviously, that's someone's job, and I'm sure they've got plenty of problems on their own plate that I'm not privy to, and it's probably pretty difficult to get people to, show up to help with those kind of things. But I can tell you that if my son plays in a soccer game at the local level, that's a bunch of parents getting together and having a morning cup of coffee, right? Like, okay, oh by the way, the kids are playing soccer, and yeah, if your kid scores or whatever your team does well, like yeah, that's great. You have fun with it. I promise you, like our crowds at our youth games, like everyone they're banging
That's awesome.
boards, they're screaming, and it's both parents, it's mom, it's dad, like it's competitive, and that is the one aspect too that I know. Yeah, I definitely do think there's a spot or a certain age for kids that, maybe you don't want to keep the score for whatever reason or anything like that. I can tell you that Red Rock Hockey, we've taken the opposite approach.
Yeah, too.
And
Let's talk about
we keep not only score, we keep stats that your kid can go look up online. They can see their name. They can see like we have this thing. It's pretty cool. It's called the hat trick Swayze. So if you ever
I've
get
heard of
three
this.
goals, yeah, yeah,
I have
yeah. If you ever
heard
get
it.
3 goals in a week, you get your name's put on the board and stuff. And it's just those little touching points that are like it's cool. And believe it or not, like I've I've been on the losing side of our league's championship, and I've been on the winning side of our league's championship. I've seen kids that were so upset that they lost, which is so tough to see. But then to watch those kids come back the next season and remember that, and they go, I don't want to take second again. So we're doing this. And I'm like, that is going to get you so far in life. And then I've seen those same kids that took second, and now we ended up getting them, a championship. They're ecstatic. They're through the roof. The pictures of it. We've got our own turn or our own trophy here that Doug, he's the cabinetry guy. So
Yeah.
he took all the broken sticks of all the years that they played in the parking lot, and he created a Stanley Cup out of sticks that's two spec, everything like that. And that's we call it the Dougie Cup. He calls it the Red Rock Hockey Championship, but because he designed it, it's like, no man, we're naming that
Good name
after
of
you.
it.
So we'll take that around to like local parades and everything like that. And like
Awesome.
it's one of those things that it's like
That's
you,
awesome.
to take it home. Obviously, if you're a kid, like you get to win it and you get to like defend it, and raise it. But like at the end of the day, it's like that's what you're playing for. To watch that competitive edge just get developed in those kids, and to see how much they learn not only through the losses but even more through the wins or vice versa, it's like that's something that's truly unique, and that's what's made our program stick, where a lot of the other programs it's kind of like, okay, I guess we just show up here at Saturday at 10 and let some kids kick a ball around for a little bit, and it's like, okay, well, we got that experience or whatever. But I mean, we're already talking about like my kids, like my daughter, she's just turned 3. She wants to play hockey now. So it's like, cool. We'll probably push soccer to the side a little bit, and we'll see if we can turn this into a hockey household,
That's
which
cool. I'm gonna say this, like I mean, from talking to you tonight, and I just wanted to go back to what you said. I told you this before the podcast started, is that I had reached out. It's so funny because I had reached out to Corey, who is your president of
yeah.
Red Rock, and I had met Corey. I'm everybody knows I've said his name about 15,000 times on this podcast. Is Corey Hursk, USA Ball Hockey Director. He connected Corey and I together because you guys are trying to get this double rink set up, like you said, and Corey was trying to pick my brain on what's it like dealing with the city? Are there certain pitfalls or things to watch out for?
Right.
Very, very similar situation. And I had reached out to Corey via email. I'm like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And literally the next day, I'm like, I thought you and Corey Tommy were the same person because I'm like Instagram. So you responded first. So sorry, Corey. We'll have you. We're gonna get together, all three of us, and do this again.
Yeah,
No.
honest mistake on my part. That was me scrolling through Instagram, going, "Oh, what's this?" You know,
But
because I'm a big podcast fan. I love
awesome.
podcasts, and especially hockey podcasts. So once I found out that there was like a ball hockey level one, I was like,
Yeah.
"Sweet!" Like I'm definitely getting on board with this. So I appreciate you responding
Oh
back.
yeah,
But
absolutely. So I,
uh,
like I said, I thought, is this the same person? Then I realized, I'm like, so no slight to anybody. I just, Tommy, you were first, so I just connected. So
no
sorry about
worries.
that,
No,
Corey.
I'm sure he'll be okay with it. Like I said, he's got a ton on his plate, but he's gonna want to get in the ring on this for sure. I think
Definitely. We'll do it
I don't know.
again.
I think it's some of the funnest stuff I've ever done. I'm sure he'll want to throw his hat in the ring, and
Definitely.
obviously he can give you his story too, because it's pretty impressive. Like, seeing where he came all the way from Canada. Obviously, I'll let him tell that on his day or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, truly, just the people involved in this organization, they're really, they're special. Like, it's like, I'm not just saying that. Like, I've been involved with a lot of hockey organizations where either they were doing it for money or their own causes and everything like that. I can tell you that everyone's motivation on all of this is like, well, our kids need a spot to play hockey, so it's very important that we make sure that our kids have a spot to play hockey.
Mhm.
That's it. Like, that's all that keeps, that's the only fuel in the tank there as far as this goes. And now you see what it's like, it's truly become. And you're like, yeah, pretty cool that, a couple guys can get, a like-minded message across to each other and do things for the right reason. And before you know it, you're just watching this thing grow like crazy. You're like, what, we're meeting with who next week? And they want to do this, like, like it's truly cool. Like, it's one of the probably one of the best things I've ever been involved in my life. So it's, again, hats off to the other people involved in the organization, because they keep the motor running. But
You guys doing a phenomenal job. Like I said, I do follow you guys on Facebook, and after I talked to Corey, I jumped on and started watching. That was a couple months ago now. That was last year, at least last fall, I want to say. But I did want to piggyback off what you said though about the competitiveness.
yeah,
We've been very fortunate. We've been very fortunate that our parents in our programs have been really good about not attacking not only each other, but also the kids or our coaching staff. And I remember one incident. This was in 2000. This is a while ago now. This was first time I ever won it as a coach. Was I think it was like 2007.
mhm,
And at this time, Tommy, we're playing on a basketball court, and it's getting late in the day because our season, because I was in college at the time that we started Young Legends, it went
mhm,
from June to August. And up here in New England, as you start getting later into August, it starts getting lighter. Sorry, it gets darker earlier. Excuse me.
right, right, right,
And
right,
so on this basketball court, there weren't any lights, although there were lights, but they didn't work. And this game went into overtime. And I just felt like I was so nervous on the bench because I'm like, I want my kids to win. But
right.
I also know, as the director of the program, if the other team wins, that's fine too.
Sure.
So you kind of play like this two sides of it. So anyway, I'm standing on the basketball court. Kid comes down, beautiful, comes right down on, he's coming down my side. Um, and one of my players attacks him. He gets beat, cuts around, he shoots it. Beautiful shot. It hits the inside of the left post,
Right,
but comes out.
right.
And I have a dad screaming at me from behind saying, that went in, that went in. And I'm like, if I get to heaven someday, whatever's up there, I'm gonna ask that go in. And in my gut, Tommy, it was no, it never went in. And
Sure.
it just because, and this when you played the game for a while, where you shot a puck and it hits it and it just comes right out, it doesn't go
Right,
back. That's how
right.
the ball had hit. So I felt very confident. So anyway, we end up winning that championship. And I remember driving around with that trophy in my vehicle, being like, wow, I can't believe we won it. It's just a great feeling. So fast forward now we have a spring, a fall, and a summer season. So the tradition
Nice.
the traditional season for us is summer,
Right.
um, because that's when it started.
Right.
So this past summer, where we had the rink, we had a huge number of people that wanted to play in what we called the minor division.
Hmm.
It's our 5 to 8 year olds, and then the 9 to 14 year olds play in the major division.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
it doesn't always work well when you have a 14-year-old going against a 10-year-old. So
No,
now that
I get you.
now that we have two divisions, but believe it or not, it worked. So anyway, I sent an email out to like all the you guys don't go by like chipmunks, penguins, you go by U sevens,
Yeah. Yeah. We do like age and under is
age and
what we
under.
do.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
totally fine. So I sent out an email to all of the different leagues, and I said, listen, Young Legends was founded on there's only one winner.
Right.
We and our board of directors is huge on that. They're like, never change that model, because
Right.
you learn of not only you learn to lose with I guess dignity or grace, but
Sure. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
also you also learn, and like a lot of people they want to win it because they know what that trophy represents now.
Absolutely.
And so I told them, I said, please warn your kids that if they don't win, they're not getting a participation trophy,
Right.
which is it's just our model. And I would say the reason why is because what I just told you. We believe
Right.
diversity creates success in the long term. So
Right.
and so we get to the championship game of the minor division, the 5 to 8 year olds. And one of the guys that plays in our men's league, he's my age, and his son's a little bit younger than my daughter, and his kid is crying his eyes out. And he came
Right.
up to me, and such a classy guy. He's a police officer too. So he came up to me. He goes, Kyle, I got to tell you this. He goes, ice hockey. My son's a mite. We went all the way to the championship. We lost. Not a single tear.
Right.
Not a single tear. He gets out here and he's crying. You know, and the question is why? And I didn't have an answer for him. It's like I don't. And like I said, this guy wasn't mad at all. He
Right.
just he just he just understood that his kid was learning of a lesson of pain. Really, like when
Right.
you lose, it's painful. And you know, I took that as it's a compliment because
100%.
the kid cared. The kid cared enough
100%.
that he wanted to win a trophy and he knew the stakes. And so I think that's where a board makes the right decision. And you've heard this, we've heard this now that we're adults. Participation trophies, all of this stuff, Tommy. And we're the same way you guys are. We believe
Yeah.
that, you got to earn it to win it. And I'm very proud of us for that. So it's great to hear, we have such similar philosophies in what it's doing. So
No,
uh
absolutely. Yeah, we have the famous line, it's like let it burn, but don't let it scar.
great,
Like
that's a
it's
great one.
like just I mean, even like trust me, I played on a lot of teams growing up where we weren't even good enough to be in our competition. I've played on travel teams where we didn't win a single game every year. It's like
In there.
and I love if I win something because I can remember going through losing every game the one year to go, yeah, see, it's not always like sometimes you got to go down to get up. Like it's just that's the natural progression of everything. And again, like you said, kind of the emotion that you created within that kid there, he valued that trophy
Yeah,
at a different level than something else. And it's like, just because the result may come across as negative in the form of emotion, like there's still so much positive in the fact that it's like, okay, well, he still had to get to that championship game, right? Which means you had to have games that you won to get there. So they learned those lessons. They learned that this is something bigger than themselves. It's not just something that, they get to come and dictate and go in and just whatever happens, you'll get the same result. And that's it. It's like, no, like this is like, hey, my son, he's very competitive himself. It's something that it's like it's good to see, but I think he's even got, he's got a little bit more than I do on a lot of stuff. And I've been on the losing side with him before, but I remember that, the last time before the championship game, I just pulled him aside and I'm like, hey, like you're here because you worked hard to get here. Like, don't forget that. Like all those shots in the net, in the garage, all the times that you're, memorizing certain hockey players or seeing what they do on videos and recreating those things, like That's all your own creativity and driven work that you put into this. And now look at the opportunity it's created for you. Like, have fun with it, relish in the moment, and know no matter what, we're going to come out with a positive attitude on this. If it goes our way, great. If it doesn't, okay, cool. We'll take our notes. We'll come back right next season, and
So
I
great,
don't know.
great.
I think it's probably the one thing that a lot of I won't say people overlook it because I definitely understand the feelings of it going, the other way where it's not the result that you wanted. But I mean, I'll tell you, I've had job interviews where it took me 3 times of applying before I actually got a crack at the job. And if I would have just given up after the first one, I don't know, where my life goes from there. I don't know what changes. I don't know what anything. And that's important for kids too. That it's like, hey, we're just because it didn't go your way one time doesn't mean it's going to go that way all the time. You got to learn how to overcome it. And one day you'll be my age, almost 35, looking back on it, going, man, that was fun. Like that was really fun to be in the thick of it and overcome it and ultimately bring it home. Like so, I think it's cool that way. But
It's awesome, man. It really, we're right on the same page with all this stuff because I'm like, even now with my own kids, I have 3 daughters, and they play like the little one's 4. She could be a chipmunk this year, or the
mhm.
U6s, but she's not. My wife's like, not yet. She's kind of like, I mean, she's a kid. Like today, she came onto the rink when we were doing the ref clinic, and like I say, when I say ref clinic, there was me, my wife, and like the head referee and someone else that were
Yeah.
getting it was like individualized for these 2 people that doing women. But she comes onto the rink wearing her jacket and makeup, 4-year-old with makeup on, Tommy, with literally it looked like she got mugged. Okay. It was like all this black mascara. I'm like, what are we doing? I mean,
Right. Right.
like
Yeah.
I like if some person walks by sees that kid, like, where are those parents, dude? And they you know what I mean? Like, there's my dad, like
Yeah.
making sure she gets onto the rink, but I'm like, dude, what is wrong with this kid? You know what I mean? But anyway, that's the youngest one. But my 2 older girls, they play. Bella just got into the U9s, and then in Aubrey, it's actually her birthday today as we film this is April 8th. So she turned 7, and she seems to be more engaged. Like she likes to practice actually, and then when the
Yeah.
games happen, there's kind of a little bit of a social anxiety where she's like, are these people looking at me? And they're very kind of like, don't worry about anything. And if you make
Right.
mistakes, totally fine.
Right.
Have some fun out there, more importantly, because I always tell them you're not going to love everything you do in life, but just all I ask for is the effort.
Sure.
The effort is most
Absolutely.
important to me.
No,
And
100%.
that's most important. So, um, but I wanted to ask you, I mean, Charlotte Street Hockey, have you seen them at all on Instagram at all? Charlotte Street Hockey League out in North
I
Carolina.
don't think no, I don't think I have. No.
Um, it's interesting because now they post a lot on Instagram.
Mhm.
They have their highlights of some of their games, and they're playing right now in like this box. They have boards, but it's kind of like basketball courts where they kind of box in a rink a little bit. Sorry, I'm
Sure.
not describing that well, but um, the one thing I want to say is I feel like someone like you guys, is there any plans for? And the reason I bring up Charlotte is I think there's the goal that they're going to grow their youth programs for
Yeah.
travel.
Mhm.
You guys have the same philosophy for travel teams? What is that? Or you guys, what does that look like? And you know the pitfalls of travel hockey. So how,
Right.
this might be a complicated question, but how do you like, is there thoughts on this?
No, definitely. I think that was definitely where my mind went the first season that I was involved because I saw a lot of kids in our program that I'm like, okay, these kids have it. Like whatever it is, like they've got it. Like they've got the hockey sense, they've got the skill, everything like that. And I think our biggest issue or our biggest hurdle with travel teams here is just getting enough of the players at that skill level that you can go create a team. But that's kind of where we're already kind of naturally progressing our own players to a point. Like there's some players that literally they come back, from the spring to the fall, and now they're just through the roof. Like the shot is that much harder. The hockey sense is there. They've been working on stick handling at home, and now they are an absolute force out there. And like our 14 and under division is it's there's not a lot of kids that don't know how to play hockey in that 14 and under. Like it's very competitive. Obviously, our 6 and under and our 8 and under, those develop a lot differently. And then your 10 and unders where it kind of starts to split a little bit, where you've had the kids that are making the jump, and then some of them that are still kind of more in that beginner skill set. But that's kind of what we're trying to grow by reaching out with the branch into Henderson. Is
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely.
we're 2 hours apart, so travel's easy, and we're actually setting this up so whoever wins the St. George Red Rock Hockey League in our kids games will play the Henderson kids in their divisions. So that's kind of our first little test at it, I'd say. But also, like again, we're 6 hours from Los Angeles, so I know that there's tons of other ball hockey opportunities in the form of travel that I think, and a lot of parents have actually shown their same kind of expressed interest in this, is like, hey, we should go around, we should play some other teams. And so I think it's something probably within the next 12 months that'll be a serious reality, and that's kind of where our rink is our most important
Awesome.
hurdle there, because our rink right now, it's a great rink. Like I will say, for what we have, it's awesome, and the city will chip in here and there for little things like that. But for the most part, like it's me, Corey, Doug, Cody, going out fixing it, and zip tying this together or something like that. And to now have their kind of vision that's being put to paper, on what they want to do with it. Okay, well, not only does that allow us to grow our kids organically, that we can continue to progress them into travel, but now we can start hosting a lot of people. And I think that's where our next opportunity is, because St. George is very unique as far as its climate. Like there are some hot days. Obviously, we couldn't play in the middle of July because it gets up, 110 to 114 here. It gets really hot. But what's unique about it is like to November, or you can host a tournament at the end of February, and you're going to be okay because it's high 50s, and like it doesn't get cold for more than, I don't know, 6 weeks out of the year here, and to a point that it's unbearable, at least. But
Sure.
um but we've got so much hockey surrounding us that it's like we wouldn't really even have to travel farther than a 6 hour trip. And the nice part about ball hockey is you can get those games over with, pretty quick. The expense isn't as bad. Like I remember growing up in, ice hockey. I mean, you were get school off Thursday and Friday, and then you were playing Thursday night, 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturday, and if you made it, 1 game Sunday, and then you probably got to like hurry back and get home at 3 in the morning to go get up for school, Monday.
Yep.
Whereas like ball hockey, it's like you can pop out there on a Sunday, especially, or a Saturday rather, especially if it's only a 6 hour drive or a 4 hour drive or whatever. Get there, play your games, spend one night in a hotel, maybe play one on Sunday, and then turn around and leave. And there's nothing to it. So I definitely think that's a good a good opportunity of happening here in the future, and that's where I'm going to get really excited with that aspect, because I don't know. I mean, obviously, growing up playing in all the different levels and stuff, I really love coaching. We all coach 4 teams each, so we have the 6 and under, 8 and under, 10 and under, and 14 and under now, and we haven't got any more coaches, so we just doubled up our teams that we're coaching. And I love the development of the 6 and unders and the 8 and unders and stuff like that, but breaking into that 10 and under and that 14 under realm, like that's where it gets really fun, because you can start setting up the in-depth plays. You can kind of show the kids that what they did is on another level than what they haven't seen yet. They have nothing to compare it to. It's like, hey, your hockey sense there just set this up that led to the game-winning goal, and like then they're probably like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I just wanted, or whatever. So like you're starting to make those connections with those players to really keep that fire. Like I guess if the fire's already lit, but like you're helping, amplify the flame a lot. And I would love nothing more than to get a competitive little 6-hour circuit between us, Nevada, Arizona, California, Washington, even for that matter, depending on location and everything like that, because I do think that's where it's going to go next. And the skill is there, you know?
When I hear guys like yourself, I mean, and I see pockets that you guys are a pocket right now, right? You're in your own little world. I don't say little, sorry. You're in
No,
your,
it's little. I mean, we're
you know,
250,000 people,
you know,
so
you're in your world where you're developing these players and the future generations, Red Rock could be a hub where you're like, this kid is on nationals. You know what I mean? And
right.
like I have all the faith in the world in you guys. And I hope that happens. I do. I mean that sincerely.
No, I appreciate that.
Do you know Beth Marhefka out in California? I forget the name of their program. Sorry, Beth. Beth has been on this podcast, but I know they're like more, again, here's our geography, Tommy.
No, no, no worries.
They're more, I think they're in LA. I think they're out in that area. I want to say it's the Pacific Coast Ball Hockey League, but I forget the name. I'll have to, but she might be someone we can connect with to get, if there's ever a circuit. I don't know if they
That
have
would,
I don't know if
yeah,
there are
that would
youth
be
programs out
great.
there, to be honest with you. I don't know what they're. I know their adult leagues are trying to revamp their rink and everything. Sorry, Beth, if you're listening. I can't remember the name of it. I should go back and look at it.
Well,
Uh,
either way, that would be awesome. I mean, they can reach out directly to us on the social handle or anything like that. Anything that we could, help facilitate, we would definitely be down for
for sure.
that. That's,
Sure.
that would be great. At least just build the foundation of it.
Yeah,
But
for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I told Corey, I think I was like, if the challenge that we're faced with right now is our kids that are playing in the league, like I mentioned, the kid crying. A lot of the parents that play in our summer league look at ball hockey as, okay, this is fun.
Mhm.
This is fun and competitive. I don't have to travel. Like, what I mean, but because Tommy, ice hockey and where I grew up in Gloucester is on an island. It's a makeshift island. You don't need a history lesson of Gloucester, Mass. Sorry.
No, you're good.
um, but it's primarily a place that is it's a small city. There's probably about 30,000 people there, and then it's about 30 miles north of Boston. So everybody knows each other.
Mhm.
Everybody grows up together, and you have to travel for hockey. Like
Yeah.
you got to drive 20 minutes. The closest. We literally there's an ice rink. It's a beautiful rink, believe it or not, in Gloucester. It's a beautiful facility, and major hockey town. The high school team does fairly well each year. A lot of fans go. Um, but local youth hockey teams, when they start traveling, you're traveling maybe 15, 20 minutes, 25 an hour. Once you start playing select hockey in Massachusetts, I mean, there's a guy that his son plays in our league. He just came and helped out with our intro to ball hockey day. He was driving all the way to Connecticut for a game, driving to
Right.
Maine for a game, 2.5 hours away for one game. And
Sure.
so I think there's some parents that are like ice is king and like street hockey is fun but my vision and our vision as a program is like you can take this game and represent your country. It might not be
100%.
it might not be in the Olympics yet, but you can go world championships. You can do
Yep.
this. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So and again, I might be opening up Pandora's box here, if that's the term, where it's like, are we going to have parents arguing with each other on the side of the rink on who's better and yelling at one of my
Right.
coaches? I say
Right.
mine, but they're our
No,
coach.
I got you though. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, is that
Yeah.
is that opening up that box that someday I mean, like we had a team, Tommy. We had a tournament. It was called the G400th, which Gloucester Mass turned 400 years old in 2023.
Mhm.
Luckily, we got the rink done in time because we had been asked if you guys get that rink built, can we do a tournament in honor of the city? I said, of
Right.
course. So we
Right.
had a tournament, and it was at the end of it was in October, at the end of October. So it was beautiful. We it was kind of obnoxious because the men played one weekend and the women got the coldest day.
Oh no.
I'm like these poor women, like
Yeah.
and we got like the hottest day of October. It was ridiculous. But we had invited two teams. We had three teams representing local teams, and then we had two
Mhm.
teams from out of town. One team from Leominster, actually, and another team from kind of in that area, but different. And my team, I'm not trying to brag, right? We made it to the finals, but
Yeah.
one of our hometown teams that was a very young team, they got their butts kicked. They really
Yeah.
did. And it was from this team that had come down and showed them what real ball hockey is played like.
Right. Right.
And like they just weren't prepared for that level of physicality,
Right.
speed, the finesse, everything that you and I playing in the NBHL are accustomed to. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a
Right.
different level of hockey. And so it was eye opening. And again, it all goes back to what's your mindset? Do you rise? Do you work yourself to get to that level? Or do you say, okay, I'm good. I don't mind playing my house league. And the answer is, it doesn't matter. I guess
Right.
you and I are probably built maybe a little bit differently in how we think, but um, I don't know. So we got a
No,
lot of
I'm
work to do.
definitely, yeah, I'm with you there. And I think no matter what, I think I think it's something that takes care of itself on both sides, because for sure there are kids that, they're kind of just getting their feet wet, or they're doing things to kind of get used to it, or it's something, that maybe their parents are just trying to diversify, their sports that they're invested in, and that's cool by us too. But I mean, the best way that I look at it is, you and I were once kids that wanted more competition, right? And it was like, technically we have an opportunity here to show what these kids, can have in that form of that opportunity. And no matter what, I think if you're going all in on whatever it is you feel passionate about that way, like, the results will speak for themselves no matter what. Like, we've noticed this with a lot of kids in our program and a lot of parents in our program, that they're like, it's crazy to see how much time you guys dedicate. It's crazy to see how much you do. I mean, to kind of give some examples, like, okay, well, the helmets that they borrow, like, Corey stores all those, so he's got a little Jeep that he fits all the hockey helmets into a bag, and then he brings all the sticks as well, and then we've got an extension cord that's connected to an extension cord to get the TV hooked up. Someone who's running the clock, someone who's doing the stats, and then you start to think, it's like, okay, like, anything that you see digitally created in the form of an image on our social media, like, Corey or Doug does that, and they take the time to make it look nice and everything, or like our videos that we do, I mean,
Oh,
I'm glad that people watch them. I will say that they're pretty fun to make.
good.
I always have, like, I scrutinize myself quite a bit, but
Oh,
it's been helping to have Atlas on those videos, because he really gets into it as well, and he keeps
that's
on
awesome.
pushing me to make them, and so it's like, it's kind of cool. But I mean, even if we get one kid, like, through all of this, like, let's say in 10 years, whatever, wherever Red Rock hockey goes, if I have one kid that's like, yeah, I took what I learned in Red Rock hockey, and I took the competition that was there, and I went and I tried out at a different team at a different level, or I played at a certain level, or anything like that, like, to me, that's a success, because the whole reason that I'm helping or doing these things with something is because this was once a passion of mine when I was really young, and now I want it to be the passion of a lot of young kids. And like you said, I mean, the sport is on the verge of being an Olympic sport. That was our major pitch to the city when we went back in. It's like, look,
You're sick.
you've got Salt Lake talking about a new NHL team. You've got ball hockey coming in as a potential Olympic sport. It's like, it's only going to cost you more if you get into this later and later and later, because the popularity is going to go through the roof. Whereas if we do something to actually build a foundation under it, then it's got somewhere to go to. And what's even better about it too is, like, it's not just in the form of a siloed sport in the form of gender. So, like, there's the men's level and the women's level.
And the
Like,
women's.
I will say, like, my hat is off to women's hockey all the way across the board. Like, to see what they've done, whether it's with the PWHL, or like even at the ball hockey level, where like, I've got a rare opportunity with the NBHL, where I'm going to be a general manager
Talk
of,
about that.
of one of the newly created women's elite teams, and just going through that draft and looking at the roster selection and, like, the credentials that these girls have, like, I'm through the roof. I am so excited to go start this tournament and start competing for this because I want to see that level of intensity. I mean, I'm sure they saw a random guy, from Utah as your general manager. They're like, "What are you talking about? I played Division 1 at St. Lawrence. Like who's this guy from Utah?" But I mean, it's so cool to see a sport thrive so much and to do it at equal levels in both sides of the men's and the women's game. That it's like this is something that it really is undiscovered, even though it's popular, if that makes sense in
Oh,
a
totally,
certain way, and
totally.
to have it as unique as it is in an environment that it breathes and to cover the bases that it does. I don't know. It's just something that's so much more unique than any of the other sports, and so I think anything that we can do to create the competitive mentality around it, whether that's at the youth or at the adult or at the women's elite level, like hey, you're
Yeah.
inspiring hockey players, and that's kind of why we got into the game to begin with. So
This can you touch upon what that NBHL elite is for the women? Because I don't know what it is. And my wife was like, "Oh, can I play that?" And I said, "Hon, I don't think so. I don't think it's for first year players, but you
yeah,
know, but what
so
exactly is it?"
so I do have some details, and a lot of them I can't share just because there
Believe
are
me,
certain marketing aspects of it that obviously they want to capitalize on and build up the tension on to be able to announce. But
no
it's
worries.
essentially the top level ball hockey players in the women's league, and they've created their own elite division. So, obviously NBHL they do like tiers of competition. So you've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Um, I would have to imagine that the women's elite is probably going to supersede whatever the tier 1 designation was, but it's going to be made up of 4 teams in 2 different weekends, and it is all the best women in ball hockey. We were able to draft. That was about 2.5 weeks ago. We were able to draft all of the players that are registered to play and everything like that, and get familiar with all the player profiles and a lot of them. It was cool because you got to do a lot of homework on them and see highlight reels and stuff like that. And we're
Yeah,
talking professional women's hockey caliber. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 girls that played professional women's hockey, and it was the league before the PWHL, which I believe is the PHF, if I remember correctly. I do apologize if I don't get that correct. I should get that correct, but um, and then I've got a lot of Division 1 collegiate athletes, top programs, like I said, St. Lawrence or Clarkson, anything like that. So
amazing.
I'm really looking forward to it. We'll have one weekend in Maryland, and then the Milet Cup weekend will be at Buffalo. I do think I
Buffalo.
can
Okay.
say that
Okay. I
because I think that's been announced on
think
Instagram
that's been
before.
announced too. Yeah.
So
I
it'll
didn't.
be at the Riverworks there in Buffalo, which is where I believe the men's Masters tournament was held not too long ago for ball hockey. So
It's a great place.
I'm looking forward to it. It's something that I will say, like, I was just scrolling through Instagram one day at work, and in my professional life, I'm in the finance industry. I'm a mortgage underwriter.
Are you really? Okay. Okay.
See, mortgage has been about as fun as it's been the last 3 years, as far as high interest rates and high values. So I'm sure I'm speaking to a lot of the audience here. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure that's been a wild ride for you," and it has. And I'm sitting there scrolling one day as I'm at work, and that I see that they were just hiring general managers. I'm like, yeah, why not? Like, why not? What are they gonna say? No, it's like they might. Okay, cool, dude. Like let's see what we can do here. Threw my resume in, got an interview, went well, and then got to meet with the commissioner and a wonderful woman, Melissa Jones. Shout out, she does so much for the NBHL. So got to meet with her and Anthony over at the NBHL, and got a second interview, and ended up getting offered the position to it. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. The travel's a little intimidating to me, I will say, because
Uh,
I've got more of a jaunt than most of the other general
yeah.
managers. But
Yeah.
it's cool to see the diverse amount of girls that are in there. I mean, we're talking Canadian girls, American girls from all over. Like, so there's going to be some rivalry for sure. I know the one general manager's helped out a lot with the Canadian national team there and everything like that. And so I'm looking forward to kind of seeing if we can make some rivalries within the NBHL in that realm as well. So it'll
Awesome.
be really. forward to it for sure.
Have you been to Buffalo?
I've driven through it.
Driven
So
through.
I playing in Cincinnati. I went to Rochester the one year for Thanksgiving. Ironically enough, Brian Giunta, the old New Jersey
Yep.
Devils
Yep.
player, it was his cousin I played junior A with. So I got to go spend Thanksgiving with Brian Giunta's family that weekend. It was pretty fun. But I haven't been able to go to Buffalo and actually meander. I just
Yeah. Okay.
drove through. We actually got pulled over in Buffalo on the way to Rochester.
Good.
That's about
Yeah.
my only Buffalo experience so far. So it's only upwards from here, I'm sure. But
Prior to, right, post COVID, right, future stars like Corey Hirsch, again, USA Ball Hockey, when they were putting on this event, I actually had volunteered to go out there. And I wanted to see what the tournament was going to be like. And so I went out
yeah,
there and I was a scorekeeper for a couple of days. But I really just wanted to go there to see how they ran the tournament. I was blown away. I couldn't believe like the bags the players got. I'm like, I'm so jealous of this. I mean,
yeah,
if I was a kid and I would have loved this. I mean, that would have been I would have loved all that crap. Really. I
yeah.
mean, no, and it's good stuff. It really, I loved it. And this was before my wife actually got into the game. So she's like, "Oh, we're just gonna go to Buffalo. It's just gonna be another trip." We brought my youngest daughter, my stepson Landon, and we went to, like I said, it was kind of fun. Taught me that I didn't have to play, I didn't have to coach. Same thing happened
Right.
down in PA recently. I went down for the North Americans. I didn't have to. My wife played. I just got to watch games, watch my daughters.
Yeah.
Asked me about a million times when we were going back to the hotel to go swimming, and you know, and can I get a hamburger? Can I get a hot dog?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
But Buffalo, I love Niagara Falls, a beautiful place. If when you go, I highly suggest that. And these are things like I said, we take for granted. We get to go to these places because of hockey, and it was a good time, great tournament. And so I'm looking forward to see how that goes. And like I said, because I watch your videos, I'm like, oh, he's a general manager. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool.
but
Yeah.
that's awesome. What was I going to tell you though about I forget what it was you were talking about.
Something in Buffalo, I would imagine, right?
Buffalo. Yeah, I forget what it was.
Maybe the river works there. Or...
Riverwalk's a great venue. It's such a
Yeah.
nice venue. It's a cool place. It's like they have two rinks side by side. It's like this old, I don't know. It's like I don't know what do you want to call it. I'm not even gonna venture a guess, but excuse me. They have like this ropes course literally above the rinks because you can go upstairs and watch the games above, but so you can just go to the other side and watch the other game. But then
Sure.
there's literally these kids on a ropes course above you, and
No,
like it's a cool place.
that's rad.
It's a cool place. So it was fun, and the tournament, like I said, it should be a lot of fun. But my wife's playing NBHL. She starts today's Monday, so we're filming this. It'll be 2 weeks from yesterday that she goes out, and she's pretty excited. I told her, she's really she'll be 1 year into hockey come June. I'm like, she's already leaps and bounds ahead of, she's really fallen in love with the game, which is great.
That's awesome.
It
That's
really, it
awesome. Good
really
for
is.
her.
So it's like our relationship is like anytime, like I work from home, so I'll go
Nice.
upstairs and she'll be at the kitchen table and she's like, I gotta tell you about the draft, or I gotta tell you about this player. And I'm like, dude, do we have anything else we can talk about right now? You know? Um,
No,
I
that's
love the
awesome
passion.
though.
I love the passion. Corey Harris, guys, he's like, I wish my wife was more into it. Then I could be at the rink more. I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. So
Yeah, no, we definitely we spend a lot of time at our rink for sure. It's we always joke. So every game you're not coaching, you're ref, and then if you're not coaching, you're ref, you're playing. So it's
absolutely.
we'll start at about 5:30 every Tuesday and Thursday for our league, and you'll get done if the adult games are on Thursday. If you start at 5:30, you'll get done probably about 10, 15 ish, something like that. It's like 5 hours of straight hockey, but I mean you can't beat
Love it.
it, right? Like,
Yeah, love it. Love being at
yeah.
the
Where's the kids out too? In between games, I always tell the kiddos like, all right, go grab your stick, go run around, get some wiggles out.
yeah. That's awesome. I'm a big fan of you guys out there. Really, I mean that. I love the ingenuity that you guys are doing. I've watched your videos, Tommy. Again, I apologize to Corey because I thought it was the same person at one point. And with everything that's been going on with our leagues, I've really been just like taking for granted. I think it was taken advantage of. You can tell my brain's a little shot here and there. So
No,
um,
you're good.
I'm, it's been a it's been a pleasure to see the development. I'm just amazed by the growth too. So, is there a way for people to reach out to you directly if you want that, Tommy?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram. It's just Red Rock Hockey. Our website is redrockhockey.com. We've got merch there as well. If you want to go snag some of that, you can do that. This is some of it that we are wearing right now, which is
Beautiful,
pretty
man.
cool. And if you want, there's some stuff you can even get customized with your number and your name on the back. So I know those ones are more of the custom order ones, so you'll probably have to work with us directly on those. But there's also sponsorship packages on there too. So, like I said, we're a 501(c)(3). So, if you want to get a hold of us, see how you can help your local hockey program, that's the best way to do it. And then always reach out to me. Like I said, I love social media. So, just the fact that I know, like you're probably the fourth or fifth person that's told me that you watch the videos, which is it means the world to me because I stress about those pretty bad just because I want them to be entertaining, but I also want them to, to be quick and something that people find value in
Awesome.
and hopefully it inspires somebody to pick up a stick and do something. That's really the main thing. So I appreciate you guys watching. And so yeah, any comments that you have, send them my way, messages, anything like that. We're always open to answer questions and honestly, thank you to platforms like this. Obviously, it's the Street Hockey Life podcast, right? So like without avenues like this, we can't we don't really have much of a voice when we're out here in Utah, and you guys have the Mecca out there on the East Coast. So
Uh,
it's like
we're
it's
fortunate.
we're very fortunate to have people like you doing what you're doing and helping spread the word and yeah, especially everything you're doing with your league and obviously you're going to the ref certifications, doing all of that. We're in those shoes with you and we know what kind of work it takes. So we're just we're happy to have partners like this that we can actually shoot the
Absolutely.
crap with a little bit online and talk about it a little bit, but also just see the parallels that are as far as apart as Utah and a Massachusetts person.
Yeah,
So
and my wife always says to me, if I always say there's sometimes that people are out there, different little ideas. So if I ever steal your ideas, it's a compliment. Okay.
right, no, that's
I'm
what they're
not,
there for.
you know what I
That's
mean?
exactly what they're there for. Yeah, no, I don't do it for the recognition. I do it because I like to stick my ugly mug in front of a camera every
Oh,
now
okay.
and again and talk to it and like I said, I mean, it gives something that my son and I can do, and I actually think that's probably why people mostly watch. They probably see him. They probably don't want to hear me talk for too long, but it's no, it's something that's cool, and it's one of those things that if someone gets enjoyment out of it, or if they want to take something from it, that material's all there to be taken, my friend. That's what it's there for. If it gets more kids with hockey sticks in their hands, then that's exactly what it was intended to do. So that's my favorite thing. But
Dude, that's awesome. Really. Look, great job to you, Corey, and the rest of the staff. And let's do this again. Let's get Corey on here and we'll talk more about Red Rock. And I
yeah, no,
I
let's do it.
I told him, he might not remember this, but I said I would love the opportunity. I don't know if you ever did this, but Eddie Costa down the South Shore, he's actually the U18 coach. He's about 2.5 hours from where we are. So we're northern Massachusetts, he's southern, like where the Cape,
Okay.
if you ever heard of the Cape Cod, he's that
Yep.
one. And Tom McMaster out in Fitchburg, who I think he might be retired from the board, but he runs their Fitchburg Raider Cup. Um, I've always wanted to talk to these guys about. I don't know if you ever did this, but when our local youth hockey team used to do the friendship tournament, where you would go to Montreal and then you could bill it. You could stay with the kid for the weekend, and then when they came here, they would
Oh,
stay with you.
that's
Uh,
cool.
what
Yeah.
what we didn't do is it was not reciprocal when it came to my teams because our teams when we went to Canada, we stayed in the hotels. We never stayed in the kids. So but when the kids because they literally shipped. This sounds so strange, but they literally had parents would it was like a house program in
Right.
Montreal. They put their kids on a bus and then send them to Gloucester, and then
Right.
they would literally stay with a billet family for the weekend,
Yep.
play hockey, and then go home.
Yep.
We did another tournament in Wilmington, Delaware, And to this day, I'm still friends with those guys.
Oh yeah.
Still friends with those guys. I went to one of their weddings. I mean, they're great people. And if I'm ever going, although I was in Philly recently, I did not there was no way I could get down there, not with that schedule. So, but that's what I mean is doing something like that with you guys someday. You know, it doesn't have to be a friendship tournament; it could be a competitive thing. But like,
Sure.
you know, like I said, that would be it would take a lot for us to get our kids to go there. But you know what I mean? It would be still be fun if
No,
we
definitely.
were able to
Always,
attend.
always
You
keep
know,
it open because the,
oh,
the other thing that's unique about where we're at,
oh,
obviously there's always tons of flights to Vegas and a lot of
sure,
them are direct. So even if we had to venture out a little bit into the Vegas realm and collectively get some guys together, we could definitely do something like that. And I think
yeah,
we could easily figure it out, but that would be super rad
that would be
because
cool.
that's
That'd be cool.
that's something I miss the travel of hockey
Yeah,
quite a bit for the competitive
yeah,
level, going to the different states. And like you said, everyone you meet in hockey, you're friends for life. It's like I always say it's like probably the closest thing you can get camaraderie wise to
totally,
any other level, and it's just it's very unique in that sense, and to help share that environment with others, it's something that's really cool, especially when you can go travel to do it and go see all these cool places on the East Coast and everything like that, and you guys
absolutely.
can show us West Coast boys up a little ball hockey and how to do it out there, but
You guys would be good. Yeah, I have no doubt about it. I mean, I think for you, Tommy, it's like I think there's a lot of travel in your future coming. You're already going to Buffalo, but you know, like you said, you're nervous about it, but I think there's going to
hey,
be more. And just like I've said this on 3 podcasts in a row now because I've had a chance to talk with Jason Kelly, who I think you know from 2 and 10, and
yep,
he's a great guy.
yeah,
And he was on the podcast 2 weeks ago, and Nick Cotter. And one of the things that I tell these guys, tell everybody now, it's my brother's probably going to make me a real amount of times I tell this story, but like the one thing that I love about traveling, where like we're only, not only, we're like 6.5 hours from Pennsylvania,
right,
where a
right.
lot of the major tournaments occur down there. But like nowadays, that's just a car ride for my kids, you know, and you know, driving down there, my some of my favorite memories of them will be just stopping at a local diner
Oh
and,
yeah,
having, you know what I mean, and just
oh yeah,
like we went to DC. We actually went to Nashville for a women's tournament this year in February, and my wife
nice,
and I drove. So we made a trip of it, and we stopped in DC for a night, and then we went over, and like my kids had I mean, I was like, you guys, I didn't get to go to DC till I was like 12, 13 years old. You know what I
right,
mean?
right, yeah,
And they didn't like the big city of DC. It's not they didn't hate it. I don't think they understood it,
right,
which you
yeah,
don't expect it to anyway. But it was a great trip. But those are the things I always remember is like seeing their
hundred
faces when
percent.
you, oh, Daddy, can I get a soda? Yeah, sure. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Yeah.
They're off the
No,
walls.
that's
And
cool. I remember all the bus rides. I know those were probably more fun for me than some of my parents. Especially when you're going up to like Alberta from Salt Lake. That's like a
oh man,
26-hour jaunt one way. And you're stopping to see the biggest like tractor wheel in Claire's home or something like that. But it's like, hey, my dad always used to say to me, it's like, you're like a 9-year-old who's been all over 2 different
these places,
countries, and it's like that's pretty
fun,
unique.
man.
And so anytime I get a chance to travel, I'll go do it. Just I like to see the different kind of things that are out there, and again, if you could throw hockey in the mix, it's always worth it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
straight off
So
top, but
cool. Um, all right. So reach out to this guy, Tommy Rupp, Red Rock Hockey, man. I'm big fans. I'm looking forward to seeing the development, and we'll do this again. We'll do this again. And
absolutely, yeah.
let
Anytime you need me.
thanks for coming on. And one more time, how can they reach you? Instagram, Facebook?
Red Rock Hockey on Instagram, Red Rock Hockey on Facebook, or you can head over to redrockhockey.com. Obviously, if you guys want to engage with us, like, comment, subscribe, all the standard things that you got to do these days on the digital platforms. But yeah, we'd love to have you guys as fans. And if there's something you guys want to see on those videos, always feel free to share that with me or whatever I can help. And Carl, seriously, thank you. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much for making the time for a program like ours. Like, again, we can't do this without good people like you. So my heart's all the way out to you, all the way out there in Massachusetts. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the next go around, and
let's do it. Yeah.
yeah, can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Tommy. All right,
Awesome.
everybody.
Yep.
Till
All
next
right.
time.
Yep.
Keep
Take it easy, Carl.
playing. Thanks.
Bye.